so the recording is now in progress. I would like to introduce our speaker for this evening, Ashley Clement. Ashley is the Coordination Advisor for Prevention at the Central Regional Cancer Center. She spent the first 8 years of her career treating cancer patients as a radiation therapist at the Ottawa Hospital, the Simcoe Muskoka Regional Cancer Center, as well as the Stronach Regional Cancer Center in Newmarket. After completing her Master of Health Studies and Leadership degree, Ashley transitioned into the cancer prevention and screening team and is focused on delivering cancer prevention strategies and expanding the smoking cessation program in the Central region. She also has a passion for music and reading and is excited to safely enjoy these hobbies in the warm weather to come. Ashley, thank you so much for joining, for facilitating our program, Having Fun in the Sun safely tonight.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you everybody for joining. I'm excited that we're going to be able to go over some safe sun measures today, especially after the beautiful weather we had this past weekend. Unfortunately, we don't have that same weather today, but I think the next couple of days and few weeks as we prepare for the real summer weather, we can go over some tools today to be ready for when the sun comes back. So I'm going to share my screen here. We'll just make sure that everybody's able to see it before we keep going. So as Rachel said, my name is Ashley. We'll do a Q&A session at the end. So I'm going to get started with the presentation here. And I just want to start with a land acknowledgement. So South Lake Regional Health Center recognizes and acknowledges the lands originally used and occupied by the first peoples of the Williams Treaties First Nations and other Indigenous peoples. And on behalf of South Lake Regional Health Center, we would like to thank them for sharing this land. We'd also like to acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as our closest First Nation community and recognize the unique relationship to the Chippewas that they have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and we do join them in these responsibilities. So today, these are the learning objectives that we're going to be going over. We're going to identify the health risks associated with sun exposure. We're going to review melanoma, one of the skin cancers, and the risk factors for that skin cancer, including sun exposure, skin type, family history, and moles. We're also going to learn some simple behavior modifications that can assist with reducing sun exposure and sun harm, and where you can go for more information and resources related to sun safety. So the risks of sun exposure. There are multiple health risks that are associated with sun exposure. This includes skin cancer, melanoma, and non-melanoma skin cancers. It's also a risk of early aging with the skin, cataracts and eye damage, as well as immune system suppression. For the purpose of today's presentation, we are going to focus on health risks as it relates to skin cancer and melanoma. So what is melanoma? Melanoma is a type of skin cancer. It starts in the cells in our skin that make up the color of skin we have, our skin tone. Melanoma itself makes up only 3 to 5% of skin cancers. However, it makes up about 75% of skin cancer deaths. And 1 out of 8 patients will die from melanoma. It is the fastest growing preventable cancer. And for those aged 15 to 29, it is the second most common cancer. When we look at the age group of 25 to 29, it is the most common cancer. The number 1 cause of melanoma is ultraviolet rays, or the sun rays that we get outside of the sun. There are other personal risk factors as well. So in addition to sun exposure, such as UVA and UVB rays, skin type is also a factor, family history, as well as moles on the skin. So what are UV rays? Let's talk about them. So there's a couple different types. Firstly, UVA rays. These are sun rays that affect the deeper layers of the skin. They mainly play a role in early aging, but they can also have an effect on cancer. When we talk about UVB rays, these affect more of the top layers of skin. They are the types of rays from the sun that directly cause a sunburn. and they are cancer causing or causing melanoma for the skin. And what's important to know is that there really is more than one way to get exposure to these UVA and UVB rays. It's not just the sun. Tanning beds are another common place that people go where they get exposed to UVA and UVB rays. And tan skin is damaged skin. So there is no safe way to get a tan. What I want to do now, just briefly, is show you a video about tanned skin. So we'll play that now. And I'll just perhaps ask Rachel to interrupt here if you can't see this video.
What if?
What if?
What if?
What if?
What if it's a sunny day? Time to get outside before that sunshine gets away?
Find a little spot and maybe catch a couple rays.
But wait, okay. You forget your sunscreen, and yeah, melanoma is one of the most common forms of cancer among people aged 15 to 29. But what if you just look the other way? Maybe just for today.
What if you use a tanning bed instead? Those are rich in vitamin D, or so you've read or seen on TV.
Well, what if they increase your risk of cancer? This time, you should know the answer.
There's no what if.
Those UV lamps may feel okay, but they're even more dangerous than tanning outside. Did you know they rewrite your DNA, make your skin grow older, and make you more susceptible to cancer each day?
Can you justify that? What are your reasons? Be honest, is it mostly swimsuit season?
Sure, this world makes you feel like your beauty's on the surface. But is superficial beauty really worth it? What if health was more important than that healthy-looking glow? And if you do get skin cancer, will you even know? What if it's your friend? What if he just doesn't care, or maybe thinks he's fine? Or maybe he's just unaware of how to spot the signs.
Maybe he thinks his dark skin will protect him. But that's not true. If he's lucky, he'll catch it early. And maybe make it through.
What if it's your sister, or your brother, or your mother, and your cousin, and your aunt? Do you tell yourself that the risk of cancer is just not realistic? Would you reassess the risk if they were part of the statistics?
Or what if it's your mother? What if she was one of the millions who was never protected just because these things are unexpected? And one bad sunburn was all it took to change her life.
What if it was you?
And what if it was you?
And what if it was you?
And what if it was you? What if you're doing what you always do? Going skiing, running laps, or playing soccer. And you're so careful with your skin that when you get it, even your own doctor won't believe you that it's true.
Then what would you say? If you realized today that a life that you held so dear could be so near to being gone because of something so preventable that you never acted on.
So act now. So act now.
So act now.
Whatever your skin tone,
Whatever your age,
Wherever you live.
whoever you are.
Spread the word.
To those you love,
To all your friends?
To those who you care about.
to those that you can't live without. Tanning is out.
Are you able to see the slideshow again?
Yes, we can see the slideshow again.
Excellent. So that video is just meant to really highlight that even though lots of us, I think, perhaps grew up with the idea that a tan is a fun and exciting way to, get outside and get some sun exposure, there really is no safe way to get a tan. And even tanning beds is not something we want to promote to individuals, especially to young members of society that are going through that stage where it's quite popular and there can be a lot of peer pressure to do that. So we really want to share that video as a reminder that no tan is a safe tan. And it doesn't really matter the color of your skin, your risk for cancer is still there. There's just different protections and different measures you can take depending on the color of your skin. So what I wanted to review next are the different skin types and how it's best to care and protect your skin in the sun. So the Fitzpatrick scale that you can see on the screen here It actually talks about skin cancer risk and also the skin tones and how much your skin tone is protecting you from UV rays. So the more fair or the more light that your skin tone is, the less protection that your skin provides you from the sun, and the higher your risk for skin cancer. And the darker your skin tone, the more protection that your skin offers from the UV rays from the sun, and the lower that your overall risk to skin cancer is. However, that does not mean that there is no risk at all, and it is important to understand how your skin tone is affected by the sun so you can take proper precautions. One of the other risk factors that's important to be aware of for melanoma is also family history. About 10% of melanomas are caused by genes that are passed on from your parents. So that means this is hereditary. If you're a parent, your sibling or child were diagnosed with melanoma under the age of 40, it's important to talk to your doctor to know what your risks are. The other risk factor of melanoma is also moles. There's a handy ABCDEs to help remember what to look out for when you see moles on your skin and how to assess to know whether those moles are normal or could be requiring an assessment from the doctor. So the A stands for asymmetry, and that means that one side of a mole is different than the other. As you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, the moles that are asymmetric can have different sides than ones who are normal and have a defined edge. B of the ABCDE stands for border. And again, moles that should be assessed by your doctor are ones whose borders are irregular, notched, or blurred. The C stands for color, and it's important to check your moles to know if there is a variety of color in a mole on your skin versus one standard color. The letter D stands for diameter, and that's to know that the size of the mole matters. So moles that are larger than 6 millimeters, or about half a centimeter, or the size of an eraser on a pencil, should be checked by your physician. And the last and important one to remember is the letter E. It stands for moles that evolve over time, or moles that are changing over time. You may start out with a small, relatively circle and similar color mole that over time possibly grows, becomes a different shape, becomes a different color, and any of those changes are important to see your doctor so they can assess, especially if changes to a mole happen significantly in a short period of time, such as 2 to 3 months. So, what are some behaviors that we can do to keep our skin safe and be protected from the sun? We're going to review the 5 S's of sun safety, being able to check the weather report, knowing high-risk activities, small changes to your habits that you can do to reduce your risk. So starting with the 5 S's, these are the important things to remember to help reduce the harms from sun exposure. The first one is slip. So slip on some protective clothing, whether that's a longer sleeve shirt, perhaps it's particular SPF protected or sun protected clothing. The second one, the second S, is slop. We want you to slop on lots of sunscreen. It's very important that you look for sunscreen that has a high SPF, at least 30 or more. Broad spectrum sunscreen helps protect from both the UVA and UVB rays from the sun. Sunscreen should also be reapplied minimally every 2 to 4 hours, and more often if you're in the water and having sunscreen rinsed off. It's also important to make sure you use a little bit more sunscreen than you think, because you will need a little bit more than you think. So definitely there's no harm in applying a little bit of extra sunscreen. Third S is called slap. Slap on a hat. It's really easy. It's something quick that you can do to help protect yourself from the sun and create a little bit more shade for yourself. Something that's about 4 inches wide on the brim will help cover your ears, your head, and protect your shoulders at times as well. The fourth S is seek, for seeking shade. There's lots of natural ways to be outside and find protection from the sun, whether that's under a tree, building, cover. Those are all excellent ways to get away from the sun. But you can also bring your own shade when you're going to the beach, when you're out at an activity with an umbrella. So seeking shade is an important aspect of reducing sun exposure. The last S is slide, for sliding on a pair of sunglasses. Your eyes are at high risk from the UVA and UVB rays from the sun. So if you can find sunglasses that offer protection from UV rays, that's the best kind of sunglasses to look for. The other thing that's important is to understand the weather report. As the summer months approach, you will hear on the radio, you will see in the weather reports that they will report on the UV index, or the ultraviolet ray index from the sun. As listed here, you can see there are low to high exposure levels. So a low exposure UV index of 0 to 2, being outside in the sun without protections, your body can burn within 60 minutes. So you may require only minimal protections if you're going to be outside for shorter periods of time. However, if you will be outside for more than an hour, you will want to consider your 5 S's and make sure you're using protective measures to keep your skin safe. As you go to higher levels of UV index, so 3 to 5, a moderate risk level where your skin can burn with about 45 minutes of time in the sun. Again, moving on to some higher levels as well, 6 to 7 and 8 to 10 that have very high exposure levels. Your skin can burn extremely quickly in the sun. 10, 15, 20 minutes without sunscreen, without protection, can cause a very harmful skin and sunburn. In Canada, we don't very often see, or we're unlikely to see, levels of 11 or higher, but keep in mind that the 5 S's are an important way to keep yourself safe. The slip, slop, slap, slide, and seek shade. Some high-risk activities as we approach the warmer weather, things like swimming, where even if you've applied sunscreen ahead of time, you'll need to reapply often in order to have the safety effect of your sunscreen. Other outdoor activities that you might be participating in that cause you to be sweating, similar to swimming, where sweat can kind of wash the sunscreen away. You have to often reapply. And as well, sometimes what people forget about is being a spectator at outdoor activities where you're just sitting can leave you at high risk for sun damage. So what are some small habits, some small changes that you can do on a daily basis to help reduce your sun exposure? Well, one of the first things we might be able to do over the next few weeks while we wait for the sun to come back is make a sun safety go bag. And what would you want to include in this sun safety bag? Again, considering our 5 S's, some extra clothing to layer up and cover from the sun, a hat, our sunscreen, broad spectrum, at least SPF 30, an extra pair of sunglasses, and perhaps even an umbrella, even if it's a small rain umbrella that you can pull out if you were in the sun. Another small habit and change that you can make to your routines is to keep some sun safety tools in your purse, in your vehicle, your boat, other activity bags, wherever you're going out and about, so that you have easy access to those tools no matter where you're going. A couple of special considerations to keep in mind. For small babies that are under the age of 1 year old, they should remain out of direct sunlight. Keep those babies in the shade, under a tree, an umbrella, or a canopy. And for babies who are under 6 months old, we do not recommend that you use sunscreen without talking to your healthcare provider. Instead, you want to keep those babies covered up with clothing. Keep the arms and legs covered and always have a hat. And do not use baby oil as a substitute for sunscreen. In fact, baby oil will not protect. It can also cause more harm from the sun. When we think about our toddlers and young children out in the sun, it's important we use a broad spectrum sunscreen, as we've talked about already, that will provide protection from both UVA and UVB rays. That's at least SPF of 30. And while the sunscreen can protect the child's skin from the sun, and the UV rays, it doesn't protect from the heat. So make sure you have lots of water to keep cool and stay hydrated. Wet clothing can cause the UV protection to be dropped by half. So important if your children are going to be out in the sun playing in pools or in the hose, that you are reapplying that sunscreen and keeping a hat to keep them safe. And even being outside for long periods of time, despite wearing sunscreen, can cause some damage. So break up the time outside to give your child's skin a little bit of a rest from the sun. Some other small changes when we think about our moles. So checking your skin regularly. Something that is often recommended is to take pictures of your moles so that you can assess over time if there have been any changes. It's often hard for us to remember just by looking, but having a record of what our moles look like and what they look like as time goes by can help us to keep on top of it. Again, remember that any significant changes to your moles should be assessed by your doctor when you consider the A, B, C, D, E's of melanoma. Some other resources that you can look at if you want some more information about sun safety. You can check out the Canadian Cancer Society website, the Health Canada website, where you'll often find updates about the UV index and the weather reports. And there's a fantastic video by Dr. Mike Evans, who does a lot of education on melanoma and sun safety. And he's got a great video if you'd like some more information from there. So to review, we have talked about there are a number of health risks associated with sun exposure. And today we focused a lot on sun exposure and the risks of skin cancer, such as melanoma. We talked about sun exposure with UVA and UVB rays, and that there is no way to have a safe tan, not even a tanning bed. Your skin type can have an impact on how you need to protect yourself from the sun. So being aware of how your skin is exposed to the sun. There's a family history factor, as well as the moles on your skin that can have an impact on melanoma. So those A, B, C, D, E's are important to remember. We went over some simple behavior modifications to assist with reducing your sun exposure and sun harm, including the 5 S's, the slip, slop, slap, seek, and slide. Some special considerations for babies and children, and where you can go for some more information. So I want everyone to remember that it's okay to have fun doing the activities you love outside in the sun. It's just that we want everyone to be sun safe to help reduce your risk of cancer and other health-related sun harms. So you can protect yourself in all of these ways. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them and provide some more information for future. Thank you very much for coming to this conversation.
Ashley, thank you so much for that presentation. I thought it was really informative. We can open up the conversation to our participants if anyone has any questions for Ashley. We're entering the summer season. This is a great time to ask Ashley any questions you might have about how to stay safe.
Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Maybe while people think about that, I had a question when you're talking about, creating your sun safety bag and keeping it in the car, which I thought was really smart, because you never know, summer and spontaneous activities happen, right? Yeah. But does sunscreen degrade in the bottle if it's like exposed in the heat for too long? Like, let's say I have that bag in my car for 2 weeks or something, and it's really hot in my car. Is that sunscreen still safe?
That's a great question. That's something I may have to take back and send you back the answer to it that we can disseminate to those who've participated. But that's a really good question. Certainly trying to create some habits, whether things are in the car ready for you or right at the door that you're grabbing on the way out. Setting up those habits so it becomes just second nature to have it with you wherever you go will be definitely very handy to help moving forward.
Awesome. Yeah, I used to keep a tube of sunscreen in my locker, so I'm gonna have to start doing that again. I hear it works.
Yeah, it's very handy. Even I often think it's funny. I get ready, to clean my car out at the different seasons, and I want to, bring my rain umbrella inside. I'm like, it's such nice weather now. But really, the small umbrellas that we keep in our purse for a rainy day are just as good to pop open when we're out in the sun and trying to have a little bit of extra shade, especially if we've forgotten our extra tools. So I like to keep it handy no matter the time of year.
That's awesome. I guess I have another question. I know you're talking about tanning beds. And so I have a family member who used to use tanning beds extensively
Yeah.
15 years ago. She's stopped. She's all about sun safety now. But I was wondering, how long does it take for melanomas to form? Should she still be like monitoring herself for that, or?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'm not sure that I could specifically say how long it would take to form, but what's important to know is that truly it only takes one sunburn to cause enough damage to down the road cause skin cancer. So what's important, it's fantastic that they've changed their habits now and are very focused on sun safety. Definitely important for them to keep in mind some of the things we've talked about today, to keep an eye on the moles on their skin if they have any, and just be aware, because there was likely damage in the past with the tanning bed use. And despite stopping now, there's still some risks associated with prior use. But having moved forward with some better habits, that's certainly the best way to go about it. Just to be mindful that, one sunburn, one tanning exposure can increase your risk to melanoma.
Okay, that's great. We do have a question in the chat. Sorry, I see from Camilla.
Yeah.
Other than the mole, are there any other symptoms of melanoma that I can detect on myself?
Yeah, that's a great question. A couple things that are worth looking out for, if you're, doing a check over of your skin, areas of redness, areas of swelling, especially near a mole. If you're having any other skin changes, pain, tenderness, oozing, bleeding, lumps, bumps, anything that's sort of out of the ordinary on your skin would be worth talking to your doctor about, having it checked out so that they could have an assessment and review to know whether there's a chance of it being skin cancer or something else altogether. But those are all good things to keep an eye on when you're kind of doing an assessment of your skin.
Thank you, Ashley. Do we have any other questions from the rest of our participants? Okay. Thank you so much, Ashley. I really appreciate you stopping in to talk to us about such an important topic. To all the participants, I will send you a link to the recording once it's uploaded on YouTube, and I'll try to remember some of those links that Ashley mentioned in her presentation. Actually, if you want to email me those links, yeah,
certainly,
I'll send
no
that
problem
to everyone on the mailing list as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And if you do have any questions, I'll also pop my email over to Rachel. So when she sends out some of that info, you can always follow up if there's further questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording now.